You got John McMullen, Jody McDonald, and we are Birds 365, and there he is in a leisurely over, not a T-shirt. We're going to call that a mock turtle. What are you wearing right now, Scott Grayson?
It's just a nice, easy, I like your leisure long sleeve shirt here.
We pimp Mike Gill, who
nice.
joined us.
Well, it's kind of cool.
He wears goofy T-shirts every week. He wears Ivy League T-shirts like he went to the Ivy League. So we like giving him a hard time, so we'll give you a hard time too.
All good.
Thank you for leisurely dressing up for us today. Let me run this by you. I misspoke earlier. I conflated Aerosmith with Bon Jovi and Living on an Edge, Living on a Prayer. I got mixed up. The Eagles are living on both an edge and a prayer with the way they're winning games this week. How long can they continue to do it this way?
I'm beyond trying to put a time limit on it because, frankly, logic says it should never have been able to go this long. I mean, this is crazy how they've been, as you said, living on a prayer. I mean, you flirt with danger frequently, like it's almost fun to you. And you come out of this every time with a win. I mean, it's just, it's baffling. I mean, when you stop and really think about what you're watching here this season, and it's hard because we're all, having these near heart attacks, watching these games go on, ready to throw stuff at your TV after the first half and then just totally mind blown when it comes back and they win. It's crazy when you see it happening. But if you really stop and look back and say to yourself, like, what are we watching? Like, it's crazy. But in the heat of it, like, you get off of that and you go, whoa, here it is. It's Niner week. Like, here we go. They're all out there whining. They've been whining. This is what they've been wanting. This is what they've been waiting for. I can't wait to hear all the trash talk this week. It's already started a little bit. It's like you don't have time to stop and reflect on what you've seen. Yet what we've seen is just, I mean, there's no other word for it. Amazing, historic. It's not supposed to happen like this.
No, it's not, Scott. And apologies to you and the listeners. It's blurring at my house, so evidently that's destroying my internet connection. So, but 59 yards when Jake Elliott lines up for that kick in that kind of weather. What was the thought from Scott Grayson?
My thought was Jason Kelce will not forgive himself if he misses this because those two penalties were huge, and that's what I thought of. Again, you say you're not supposed to make a 59-yard kick on a wet field in wind and with rain falling. I don't know how. He's got to keep the ball low. I don't know how the Bills didn't have somebody able to try and do what Jalen Carter did earlier in the game on a shorter distance kick. Just really try to time your jump and get a hand up there, just to even get a finger on it. And that ball is just, it's tailing, right? It's tailing and it goes in on the corner of the uprights. It's like somebody's writing a Hollywood movie in front of our eyes, the way this all goes down. And so my thought, John, was I just don't see how he makes this. And my first thought was about Jason Kelce, because he will take it on his chest. He will blame himself for those penalties. And
he should, by the way. It's a footnote now, but those were two big mistakes. And Jason did take accountability. He admitted.
Yeah, he always does.
Always does.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but to Jody's point, and to your point, this kind of stuff doesn't happen. And we saw it to a lesser degree with the New York Giants last year, Minnesota. They had sort of special seasons, but you knew they were winning quirky ways. You knew it couldn't continue. Now, the Eagles have more talent than both of those teams, so I think they're better equipped to get this thing right. But bottom line, if they play like they did in Kansas City and they play like they did against Buffalo, they're not beating San Francisco. Is that fair to say?
Well, I would normally say it's fair to say, but given the circumstances of what we've seen, I would like to say, yeah, they're not going to beat San Francisco. Not with Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel. You can run down the list. They have a roster just about as good as the Eagles do. Yeah. So you can't do that. You can't play like that. You can't come out and be down 10 at the half for the third straight week and think you're going to overcome it. Now, what they've developed, and this you have to admire, and you do want to see this out of a championship caliber team, is the ability to never feel like they're out of a game. No matter how ugly or bad we feel it looks or is, or they're never out of the game, and they don't believe they are. They're going to do whatever they can to keep up with it and get back in it. But no, but this is the kind of game where you come out and you have to, let them know and remember what it was like here in the NFC Championship game. I cannot see how you come out flat in this game, or slow, or turning the ball over. Just can't happen. And you're right. I think, John, I do have to agree with you. I mean, history says maybe not, but they can't play like they have the last 2 weeks and expect to win this game. Now, that being said, you beat the Bills without Lane Johnson and Dallas Goedert. Two big losses on that offensive line, you have been shorthanded, but nobody's using that as an excuse. They're winning anyway. It'd be nice to get one or if both of those guys back this week, for sure. And, I think but what they did, frankly, winning that game against the Bills took pressure off the Eagles, and it put more pressure on the Niners coming in here. You can lose this game and still control your own destiny for the number 1 seed with 5 weeks left. And that is, to me, the significance of winning that game on Sunday.
All right, Scotty, I want to combine a couple of things that you just said there. Number one, you said it's important that the Eagles come out and establish the fact that this is Eagles-Niners at the link. It just happened 11 months ago. We know how it played out there. So you want to see the Eagles get off to a good start, because it's been an issue over these last couple of weeks. Would you consider, which of the two sides of the ball would you say played better for the Eagles this year, offense or defense?
Wow, that is a great question, Jody. I feel like I'd have to say the defense, because lately the defense has been the
Really?
ones that have they've won the games for them when the offense didn't get a first down the entire fourth quarter. And they ultimately ended up beating Dallas that way. The defense made a play when they had to. The defense, you saw my hesitation though.
Now correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but I think people grade on a curve.
On a curve, that's exactly what I was going to say. If you're grading on the curve of expectations, then I think you can take the defense over the offense. If you're just looking at them at two separate, the Eagles' offense is better than the Eagles' defense.
Yeah, what bothers me about the offense, though, Jody, is I feel like it could be a lot better. I feel like it could run a lot more consistently. I feel like they start getting something going with DeAndre Swift in the running game, and then we don't see it for a while. I just get aggravated with some of these 3 and outs and the failure to get a first down when you really need one. So
if the Eagle offense could be better, who needs to pick it up? The play caller, the head coach, the quarterback, an individual play, the offensive line. If you think they're underachieving and could be better and more consistent, who are you pointing the finger or blaming?
I want to blame Brian Johnson, but what I don't know is how many times is Jalen changing the play at the line of scrimmage. Every now and then you'll hear Nick drop a little Easter egg for you where it makes it sound like he's involved in some of the play calling. So, there are times they make the right call at the right time. Listen, hats off on the whole the run. We see Jalen do the run up the middle. How many times and it gets stopped for nothing? He made the call at the right time. They score the touchdown, walk it off.
That was a great play call. Great,
absolutely.
play
the third down and long. You really needed a first down on that possession. You kind of farted around for 2 downs, and then you throw a screen out to the side that's poorly blocked and has no chance of any success in moving the chains. It didn't even gain a yard, and we're punting. It's like sometimes I just don't understand the philosophy, I guess, and it drives me insane because I think these games,
everybody,
we've all talked about it. They haven't played a good game, a 4-quarter game, or even really a 3-quarter game yet, for the most part. And if they did, the fourth quarter would be a whole lot easier on the rest of us. So I just look at this offense and I think they're leaving points on the board out there. So I'm more frustrated with the offense than I am with the defense, I guess, Jody, is a better way to put it.
One quick note, and John, jump in here with a question. You guys might not have noticed this because you're at the stadium. On that play that you just described, the bubble screen that went backwards on 3rd and long, Fox went to a cutaway of an Eagle fan. and you knew he's an Eagle fan because he's all in green, and you could read his lips. He had like his hand up, both of his hands up, going like that, and what the fuck?
Yeah.
He looked right into the camera after they ran the bubble screen. And I think you couldn't hear it because it was a guy sitting in the crowd, but you could read his lips as clear as day that's what he said. So, Scotty Grayson, you were not alone on that one.
Yeah.
A lot of Eagle fans were going, what is that?
Well, I don't wish last night's game on anybody, but if you were watching last night's game, you see how many bubble screens. It's just a part of the NFL. The Eagles aren't the only team. Everybody, it's a staple of every offense. Jody knows I can't stand it. But I will say this about Brian Johnson. There's this incredible disconnect, Scott. I mean, this guy is like, he is top of the hiring cycle. He's going to get multiple interviews. You know, Frank Reich got fired, which is a dumb David Tepper move. You see the betting markets, he's at the top in Carolina. They wanted to hire him as the offensive coordinator last offseason. Adam Schefter came out, so now it's real, said Brian Johnson's going to get a bunch of interviews. He is. There is this incredible, and I get people in my mentions every day, fire Brian Johnson. It is unbelievable to me. The expectations, are they unrealistic? This is a good offense. That is a great play call. By the way, if you have Nick's transcript, because I asked him about the walk-off, and he got giddy talking about it. And he went into one of his dissertations about that particular play. It was so well run, so well designed. And that's when you're talking about Scott, Jalen Hurts. Basically, he's got an option on every play to kill from run to pass or kill from pass to run. So the first option there is DeAndre Swift on the bubble screen. And then when he sees everybody moving towards the motion, he kills it to the opposite end. Everybody's on the same page. Kelsey's got a kick out block. Jordan Mailata's got a seal block. It's like the Red Sea parting, touchdown, walk off. Why don't Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni get credit for that? That is a big time play design, play call, both.
I agree with you, and you're right. There's a lot of things that had to happen there, and that's where it helps to have such great talent. Hall of Famer and Jason Kelly. His block on that play was unbelievable. Yeah. Just totally.
So was Jordan's, by the way. Look at Jordan Mailata's seal block.
I mean, they made it so Jalen didn't even really have to run that hard to get in. It was like you said, a Red Sea. Yeah, he deserves credit for getting that. Now, and I'm not on the whole fire Brian Johnson. Like, I'm not there. Like, this is his first year. Like, you got to let the guy grow a little bit. You know, there's got to be.
He's not going to be here next year. If they keep this up, he's not going to be here next year.
But my question to you is he that good, or did this offense and the talent here and Jalen Hurts make Brian Johnson a big candidate for these jobs?
Yeah. Well, and I always tell Jody this as well. The most honest thing Nick has ever said to me is, show me a good coach, I'll show you a bunch of good players. I mean, that's, Frank Reich isn't a bad coach now. Bill Belichick isn't a bad coach. Mm-hmm. If you don't have players, you're going to struggle. And the Eagles have a lot of players. That's always number one, to have really good players. And we're going to see it this week, because you might see the two best rosters in the NFL, right. Philadelphia and San Francisco. They have two good coaches, but we've seen Nick Sirianni struggle in his career. We've seen Kyle Shanahan struggle in his career. You need good players. We can all agree with that, right?
Yeah, for sure. But the touchdown to Zacchaeus, Brian Johnson had nothing to do with that.
No, that's all off schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all off schedule. And by the way, how does Buffalo allow that to happen? That's another thing. So, but are you going to blame Sean McDermott for that? I'm sure he's not telling his guys, hey, don't pay attention to Zacchaeus in the end zone. It kind of works both ways. Like Sean's getting killed for that. Same thing, schoolyard play. It works both ways in that sort of category, I would say.
One last point on Brian Johnson. John, you can do some research on this. You're a reporter. I'm not. A team losing 3 coordinators in a 2-year period. And, oh, by the way, the most they're going to walk away with is 1 Super Bowl win, not 2. They lost the Super Bowl last year. I bet you that's never happened before. I actually think the fact that the Eagles may win more games than Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon combined in their new team's first years might actually hurt Brian Johnson. I think he may pay a price because teams go, yeah, it works in Philadelphia, but it doesn't necessarily work anywhere else. So do we really want to hire Brian Johnson? Yeah, John is much more pro Johnson getting a gig next year. I don't think it's going to happen for him, but we'll see. Put the Eagle blinders on here, okay? I don't want you to consider anything else other than the Philadelphia look at this. Yesterday, Hassan Reddick said, line this blank up and let's play again. Prove it again. A.J. Brown said, it's officially Troll Deebo Samuel week. You have my permission. It's not even BG. BG, we expect this, but other Eagles do a little trash talk leading up to the San Francisco 49ers.
By the way, AJ and Debo love each other. That's so playful. They love each other.
Okay.
So,
You know that. Not everybody knows that. Not everyone who reads that social media post is going to go, the boys. I think most people know it about Jalen and AJ. I don't know that. I didn't know it until you just said it, John, that Debo and AJ Brown are tight. So there was some trash talking going on there. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for the Eagles this week?
There's a line, right? There's an invisible line somewhere, and I think you just got to make sure you don't cross it. And this team has done a great job of not crossing that line and putting bulletin board material up there. And I'll give you an example of what happened, I don't know, a month ago to the Phillies. You know, don't be Garrett Stubbs. Love Garrett Stubbs, but don't be Garrett Stubbs and start talking about how you're going to celebrate in the pool, right? You start making it personal that way. So far, I love A.J. Brown's approach. Listen, I don't need to trash talk you. I got a whole city that will be more than happy to do it for me.
Yeah.
And so I love that. I love Hassan Reddick basically saying, like, I'm ready to play right now. Let's go. Let's find a parking lot. We can do it there, old school style. Let's go. I'm fine with that. But somewhere there's a line that you don't want to go overboard, whether you're threatening to injure the quarterback again or, something like that, I think would be where you go too far. And I think you just got to limit it. You got to tone it down. Again, as I said, you're the king of the hill. You're on the top of the mountain. And even if you lose this game, you're still going to be on the top of the mountain.
So let me now focus the question for you, because it's a great point you're making. I want to take something that John said earlier and see if it fits in. Last year after the game, a bunch of 49ers, Deebo Samuel being number one, but a bunch of others and media members of San Francisco. We would have won the game if Brock Purdy hadn't gotten hurt.
You know what pisses me off about that, by the way, Jody? Media members saying we should have won the game.
Yeah.
That
There was plenty of that.
They're not
plenty
media
of that.
members.
Right.
No.
They're not getting paid. They're not on the team. They're not on the roster. But that's exactly the way they said it. Is that over the line?
Yeah, I think so, because you have no way of knowing that. Same thing.
John said earlier, it's expected. Players
Same thing as if,
feel that
and
way.
you see the way a class organization handles something like the Eagles losing in the Super Bowl. They could have said, "Hey, if we had played on turf instead of grass that was all wet, we would have won." You don't know that. You don't know that you would have won if Brock Purdy stayed in the game and wasn't hurt. You don't know that. To me, I think that is the definition of whining. And the Eagles did not do that about the turf, really. They did not do that about the holding call. James Bradbury came right out and said, I held him. You saw ownership and a class organization that was able to say, we messed up. The Niners they never said that, or took ownership that the Eagles were the better team that day. They were. That's the line you say. They were the better team that day, and I really hope we get a chance to play them again because I think it'll end a different way. That's a different statement, isn't it?
Right.
It
And
comes
for
out a
me,
different way.
here's what I said. I keep interrupting. I apologize to
No.
both you and John. Here, all I would have done was, Vanna, can I buy a different consonant? If you had said we could have won the game, then that's acceptable.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. That's having confidence in your team. When you make it a W instead of a C and go, we would have won the game, then you've overstepped your boundaries.
I completely agree. And what we've seen in the offseason, right, it didn't stop. It continued throughout the offseason, even into the summer. And they knew they were on the schedule. And then it continued again, even into training camp out in San Francisco. And now it's here, and they can't wait. And they're running their mouths the same way. They're still whining, right, in my opinion. And I just think you are doing nothing more than firing up this team and this city where you have to now come again. And you're setting yourselves up for, I think, the Eagles will be more ready than ever to step on the field against these guys and punch them in the face. The Son Reddick case in point. But you're right. There's a right way to handle it and a professional way to, and you're all professionals at this point. Somebody needs to talk to Shaq Lawson about that for the Bills. There's a right way to handle things and a wrong way. And to me, I feel like, and this is where I give Nick Sirianni credit. He does a good job of keeping these guys kind of in the guardrails to not do that.
Is Nick the one doing that? Because Nick likes to spike the football.
Well,
Nick keeps his players in the guardrails, but Nick gets outside and over the guardrails altogether too often.
During the week, Nick stays within the guardrails. No. He does a good job of and he
waits until he waits.
Yeah, he waits till the emotion can't contain it, right? And we all, that was
here's what I said. I have no problem with an athlete who says, I expect to win a game. I mean, they should. I don't want a guy who doesn't expect to win the game. But I think there's a better way to handle when you do lose and you say, maybe it would have been nice if our starting quarterback was played and that and we'll see what would have happened instead of we would have won. Mm-hmm. So I agree with that, but I never have a problem with it. Like I expect the disastrous New York Giants to come in at the end of the season and say, we're going to win this game. They might not believe it, but I want an athlete to believe it. So I never have a problem with that kind of thing.
John, there's a difference before and after, right? Coming into the game, you always think you're going to win. And then the game is played and you go, yeah, we would have won. No,
well, I truly believe Deebo Samuel thinks they would have won that game. I like that mentality from my players. I truly believe he believes that. He's a really good player, really competitive player, really. I mean, why wouldn't he believe that? It's kind of my question.
I'm okay with that. The problem is when you take that public and when you start making that more of an issue of to say you're putting down, you're not respecting the opponent that beat you, which to me, I think that's one of the things that's great in sports. Hockey handshakes after a game 7 in the playoffs, what have you. The respect for the opponent after the game is over. There was none of that. And that is where, in the locker room, before the media comes in, what have you, they could say what they want. They could say we would have won that game. In fact, I agree with you. I would hope they were.
All right. So I'd like your thought process.
Keep that quiet.
So settle an argument between Jody and I, Scott. Okay. You'll be the judge. We're going to you got a gavel in the bookcase on the back?
I should with the 4 kids running around so I could beat them with
it. Jody and I have had a discussion about rivalries. I think the San Francisco 49ers are a bigger rival than the Kansas City Chiefs. Part of that is the angst. As you mentioned, they don't like each other and they're talking crap. And Kansas City's like, oh, when are we going out with Travis? And can we get Taylor Swift tickets? I don't see a right. Plus the familiarity. They don't see the Chiefs that often. They happen to play them in the Super Bowl and they played them in the regular season. They might not see him for 4 years now, potentially. So it's tough to develop that rivalry. Where are you in that camp? I think they don't like each other, the 49ers and Eagles.
I agree, although I think the angst comes more from San Francisco than it does Philly. But I think that, yeah, I would say the Niners over the Chiefs right now. And just because like, can we all agree, like, there would be a 90+% chance that these two teams are going to play again 2 months from today, in the NFC Championship game. Like, can we agree on that? Like,
Don't
this
know
is
if I'd
likely.
go 90, but yeah, north of 50.
Okay.
They look like the
It's
two
the
best
most
teams.
likely matchup
Yeah.
for the NFC
Yeah.
Championship game is San Francisco, Philadelphia again. Yeah.
Right. So you are almost guaranteed to play these guys again in 2 months, and therefore, and the third time now in 1 year for extremely high stakes. The number 1 seed, the chance to go to the Super Bowl, the chance to do it again. I mean, what more would fuel a rivalry than that for present day? I think time has to develop a rivalry. So I don't know I would put either one of these quite there yet with that strong of a word. I love the historic part that builds a rivalry, like the Cowboys.
Well, yeah, the Cowboys are
Right.
They're by far number one. I
Right.
think
But
we all agree with that.
right now, I would say, yeah, like I just think this week's going to fly by because everybody's excited for this. The fans, I'm thinking from a fan perspective, would you consider this a rivalry? I think right now you consider this a very heated matchup, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think it's going to be fun to watch right now. It could very well be very agonizing to watch, like the Buffalo game was. But this to me is what makes the NFL what it is. This is an amazing opportunity to see two of potentially, as you said, John, two of potentially the best rosters in the NFL. Just put the ball down. Hassan Reddick be happy to do it outside in the parking lot, and let's go. I love.
What could ratchet up the rivalry this week? Now, remember, John knows this. You might not, Scott. Sunday morning on WIP, I was hosting a show leading into the Eagles' 3-hour pregame show. And I suggested that the Eagle crowd should start an MVP chant for Jalen Hurts. That he had moved into the lead, that he was now the leader in the clubhouse. Oh, by the way, he counted for 5 touchdowns the other day and increased his lead as the MVP. And I thought they should have started an MVP chant last week. And I will suggest again, they should do it this week if merited. And it was, I pat myself on the back here. I said, if any of these 3 plays come up, a tush-push touchdown, it did. A long pass into the end zone with a great catch, it did. He runs it in himself, not tush-push, a run-in touchdown. He did to win the game. So I said, any of those 3 happen, all 3 of them happened, you got to break out in the MVP chant. And Chris Franklin told me yesterday he actually did hear it at the stadium. It didn't take over the stadium, but he did hear the MVP chant. That being said, if Brock Purdy comes in and outplays Jalen Hurts, he's going to get back into the MVP consideration. Jalen's in the lead. Mahomes and Lamar thereafter, and then Dak and Purdy. If Purdy comes in and the 49ers win the game and he outplays Jalen Hurts, that's going to ratchet the rivalry between the 49ers and the Eagles through the roof.
I would agree with that. I mean, even before last weekend, you're right. I think Jalen was kind of the favorite. After this weekend, he is the clear front runner for the award. Look, I agree with you that Purdy, and I'm fighting the voice here, that Purdy could have an outstanding game and potentially supersede Jalen there. I
wouldn't even go supersede. I'd just go close the gap.
Get closer,
Unless Purdy goes for 7 touchdowns. I don't think he's jumping Jalen. He could make it an argument again.
Yeah, I saw a tweet by our good buddy Jeff Kerr here over the last couple of days that Jalen Hurts has won 8 straight games when trailing by 10 or more points. Yeah. No other quarterback in NFL history has got more than 4 straight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the rare air this guy is living in.
He's got 14 in a row against winning teams, which
I feel like he's won the MVP award unless he absolutely bombs the last 6 weeks here, which there's no way that happens. Or if he gets hurt in the next couple. At this point, unlike last year, if they get the number 1 seed and he misses maybe 2-3 games at the end, he might very well still win the award. I think he's created that much room for that. And you know what I love about this guy? I mean, this guy is amazing to watch. John, you see it up close. The personality, the mannerisms, he doesn't care. He truly doesn't care if he gets an MVP. That does not mean anything to him. And it's, it's just amazing when you see what this guy is doing here. And he's only 25. He's only 25. And we're talking about.
I worry about Jalen sometimes. He seemed conflicted after the game against Buffalo because they didn't play well. And he's like, it was one of the rare times he kind of, went off in public about, what he was thinking. And he was basically saying, he had a couple weeks earlier said, when did winning not become the standard, when people were complaining about style points? And this time he went the exact opposite. He's like, yeah, we won, but we're not playing well. And I want to play the standard, his standard. He seems to be, he reminds me of Eagles fans. Maybe they love him because I say all the time. And you said it at the start of this interview, Scott. This isn't normal. Don't get used to this. It will end. That 10-1 consecutive years. Nick Sirianni's the third coach to do that. The other two are Don Shula and Tony Dungy. That's it. Bort, you just mentioned 8 wins coming back from 10 points. 14-0 against winning teams, most since 1950. This stuff doesn't happen in this league. Enjoy the run. And now I'm starting to wonder, is Jalen Hurts enjoying the run?
Well,
because
it's one of the things that I love about him, though, John, is that, listen, he says he's not playing to his standard. He will never play to whatever that standard is. He set it so high. There's no way he ever has
it's perfection. That's the standard. Yeah, he's never going to reach the standard, but he seems.
But what I love, John, is, you described him and what he said. You also had Brandon Graham come out after the game, and it's like he's broken the record for most games played in Eagle uniform, and he's like totally in the moment, like an Eagles fan. Like, wow, that was wild. That was crazy. That was awesome to be a part of. I think it would be nice just to see Jalen be a human and acknowledge, like, wow, that was some serious, whatever there. That was just wild. And glad we won. Not happy with how we played. Wish we played a little better so it wasn't that close. But he's always that steady, and you see his reaction when Jake nails the 59-yard field goal. You wouldn't even know that the kick happened.
Yeah. I don't think
it's unbelievable.
I think Jalen was with the rest of us. I don't think he thought that was going in. That was an incredible
There's a question you guys can put to Jalen when you next get in front of him. All right, Scotty, let's wrap on this note, Scott. Let me just double check. You're taking 2.5 points with the Eagles this week, right? Because the Eagles are an underdog in their own house against the team that they beat. Yesterday, I was talking about this with John. I use a website called VegasInsider.com, and they list about 9 different outlets that you can bet with. And they have, and they vary from outlet to outlet. Some a half point here, a half point there. The Eagles were a favorite yesterday. The first opening of the line after the Eagles game, they made 49ers a favorite. Then it quickly flipped to the Eagles. It is now flipped across the board to San Francisco being favored by 2.5 points.
2.5? Wow.
2.5. 49ers across the board. I can punch it up for you real fast and run down all the websites that offer a draft. 2.5 points across the board. 49ers favored over the Eagles. You're taking the 2.5 points, right?
How do you not take 2.5 points with this team at home, with its fans behind them? We're not talking about a 1:00 kick. It's later in the day, so they've got all the time to get all juiced up. And
they will get juiced up.
They will. But Jody, to your point, it's some people who are heavy bettors that I've talked to that understand this thing a lot more than I do. It rarely goes through zero, right? And you laid out where it went through zero. Well, what does Vegas know that it went through zero like that? And I understand how people bet is what affects it. But what do these people know or think is going to happen with San Francisco coming in here? That it's not even like it's a half point or a pick 'em. Even that would be a little bit like, okay. Because you get 3 points for home field. So they're saying that on a neutral field, the Niners would win by 5.5 points?
Well, no, the Niners...
if the Eagles are getting 3 for home
field.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. 5.5. Yeah.
So
5.5.
On a neutral field, they think the 49ers are 5.5 points better than the Eagles.
Right.
Hey.
Really?
Really? Like, what am I missing here? I know, like, we don't know yet Lane Johnson's status or Dallas Goedert's. I'd be a little surprised if Dallas played, although I it sounds like he's really gearing up to try. Yeah, I would expect Lane Johnson in there this week. So what are you looking at and pointing your finger at to say that the Eagles are a clear? There's no, to me, it's baffling, but it's one of those that, like, before you push bet, you're like,
that's why Debo's so confident, man.
Right?
Yeah. At S Grayson Fox 29, our favorite sports anchor in town, Scott Grayson,
you're too
does a tremendous job, not only with us but over there at Fox 29 with Breland and company. Thank you very much, Scott. I will see you at the big San Francisco 49er game, hopefully.
Big one, yeah. Can't wait. I can't wait, man. That atmosphere is going to be great. Do your job, Eagle fans. Let's go.
MVP.
Yeah,
MVP. I'm just saying. Scotty, good stuff. Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.
All right.
Scott
Appreciate
Grayson,
you guys.
Sports Director, Fox 29, here with us on Birds 365. All right, got to come back. Final break. You know what we'll do. We'll put a bow on the show.